The age of shinobi shall end is the first thing we learn about this part going in, with Naruto's lone son Boruto still standing as a ninja until the very end. Going in, we anticipate a dark end for every dream and accomplishment many of Naruto's fans grew up with, and they were fated to be destroyed. For fans of Naruto to be upset really is understandable, but I think this series has more merit than many people give it credit for. This is, does Boruto deserve as much hate as it gets? But before we get into the video, I'd like to announce that this video is proudly brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid has taken gaming by storm and has brought a true console-level experience to gaming on the move, with millions of champion combinations and countless tactics to master. Raid Shadow Legends is putting a lot of focus on the awesome Dwarves faction. Not long ago, Sirot's demonic Orcs tried to invade the Dwarven Kingdom. The Dwarves won at great cost, and their king gathered an army to march to the surface and join common cause with the forces of light against the darkness, ending over a 1,000 years of non-alignment. What I like about Raid Shadow Legends is searching through all the different factions to find out who the strongest champion actually is. One of my favorite legendary champions at the moment is Samar Gemcursed of the Dwarves. He is one of the hardest hitting champions and has a very aesthetic design that looks super detailed with the gem crystals built into his body. And this month, Raid's just released a huge new Doom Tower update. There are two huge new bosses to take on, Astronix the Dark Fae and Bamal the Dreadhorn, along with new enemy balance on tower floor, new secret rooms to discover, and most importantly, new artifact sets to win. If that's not enough, the whole month is packed with awesome events and tournaments, including one very special event with a brand new feature, Super Raids. Super Raids let you double up your rewards from hitting dungeons and massively speed up your progress. This is amazing for new players, and if there's ever a time to start playing, it's now. All you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan my QR code, and you'll get an epic hero Chinoru, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. But please listen, this will only be available for 30 days. If you want to come play with me on Raid, my username is SethMPTP, but be quick, I'm only accepting the first few players who add me, and these bonuses, once again, only last for 30 days. A big thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for making this video possible, and I genuinely mean that. There are many criticisms of Boruto, also known as Naruto Part 3, some of which revolve around power scaling, the treatment of the past characters we grew up with, strange story decisions, the dumbing down of a franchise, and so much more. I myself was a huge proponent of this mentality that seemed to just write off Boruto as a new generation puke that didn't have a lot to offer and was mainly made to sell merchandise and vulture off of the grandiose name of Naruto, but after really spending time and analyzing this story, I think I was wrong, and I don't think it was wrong for people to critique me for writing off Boruto without much thought. And to be fair, after all, I think the main reason I did write it off is just that. I didn't give it much thought. Now, is the story perfect? Absolutely not, but it does have some things to offer that I deeply appreciate, even as an old gen-loving boomer that had blind eyes for only Naruto for many years since the release of this series and even the original movie. We should preface this video with a few things. Many Boruto fans try to de-link Boruto from Naruto Shippuden, saying it's a completely different story and should be judged as such. This is disingenuous, and in fact, you can't understand Boruto's story nearly as fluidly or appreciate it as much without knowing about Naruto Part 1 and 2. Even on the very backs of the official volume releases by Viz, these stories are advertised as The Legend of Naruto Continues. And there's some credence though, and that is that Boruto is Boruto's story for 95% of it. But to say it is completely unlinked from Naruto is total BS, and I'll explain why it being linked to Naruto is actually to its benefit, in which I feel as though Boruto fans try to de-link them out of fear of comparison. The other thing I want to preface is that while Boruto is in fact about Boruto, and Boruto is the main character, and it's about him, the first arc is not about Boruto. They're even stated by Boruto himself to be about Boruto and Naruto. But once again, this is not a bad thing. I also want to say that I'll only be analyzing the manga for the majority of this video, but I'll add some insights from the anime continuity that I appreciate or think can be hurtful to the Boruto franchise that maybe the manga can adapt to its benefit. This video is not a critique or wanking off of Boruto. I genuinely just want to explore what the series is, the good and the bad, and how to make it even better so it stops getting a bad rap in the future. Boruto starts the series as talented, the opposite of Naruto for the most part. But due to his talent, he is rather lazy and doesn't really work hard for anything. The shadow clone and elemental jutsus he has are actually at a level that he pretty much picked up on instantly. Some people would say this is bad, however, it's not a bad quality as he can't use them nearly as well as Naruto at the beginning of the series, who attained them with hard work. Being able to spawn 1,000 clones in the very first chapter, and being able to spawn multiple dozens of them easily in fights, while Boruto can only use a few at most. He is also introduced to ninja tools that basically allow almost anybody to use any jutsu loaded into them, and that you don't have to be a ninja to use one. This is a very important detail. We then go to Naruto saying that for peace to be maintained, that the proper lessons need to be ingrained in the next generations to prevent things from going crazy. From the get-go, Boruto's almost inclined to cheat. Why wouldn't he simply want to use a ninja tool that could grant him whatever power he wanted? He was already lazy and didn't have anything to prove for himself. Naruto also lecturing about passing out lessons to the next generation is also extremely ironic, because he never attempts to do this with Boruto. One thing you'll notice about the first arc of Boruto is that Naruto is so blinded by his accomplishments in his dreams that he doesn't even see that he's a father most of the time and is being hypocritical. Boruto is bratty for attention at first, which is a turnoff for many people reading, but is also a realistic outcome. Also, ironically, Boruto is bratty and does things for attention because his father doesn't give him any. Naruto is leaving his son feeling almost as lonely as he used to as a kid and doesn't even recognize it. Whenever Boruto enters his office, he demands to be called Hokage and not dad. He even sends a shadow clone to his daughter's birthday party and would rather have the real version of himself do paperwork alone in an office, showing he values being Hokage more than being a father to Himawari and Boruto. This is a pretty interesting detail that is actually potentially a follow-up from part 2 of Naruto that I'll get into later, but for now, just know he values being Hokage more. Boruto is obviously upset and freaks out on Naruto. Any kid would freak out on their parent if they valued their job more than them. Boruto is then introduced to Sasuke. Sasuke is someone who is acknowledged by Naruto and is extremely powerful, then deals with Boruto and gives him attention briefly. Boruto figures that Sasuke is acknowledged by Naruto, so maybe he could help him. It's a childish jump in logic, but it makes sense. Obviously, Boruto is a child, and Sasuke probably can help Boruto. So Sasuke brings this up to Naruto, and they have a discussion about whether Boruto is like them at all, in which Sasuke thinks he is, and Naruto disagrees. Due to this, Sasuke hopes to teach Boruto guts to prove Naruto wrong. Boruto tries learning the Rasengan in hopes of becoming Sasuke's student, and after hard work, not only does he master it, but he masters an advanced version accidentally. When Boruto hears Sasuke call his Rasengan small, he gets upset because most things come to him rather quickly, and he hates to fail at anything. He hasn't been disciplined much growing up, and thus wouldn't be disciplined. When he thinks he failed, even though he didn't, he resorts to cheating. The scientific ninja tools from earlier that already aligned with him to begin with are then dangled in front of his face, and he accepts, which Sasuke notes makes Boruto different than Naruto, even though he doesn't want to believe it. Another funny note is that once the ninja tools are presented to Boruto, he noticed he was dirty from training and quickly cleans up, showing he's going back to his roots of not trying hard and looking for an easy way out, as the clean clothes represent him not being like Naruto, as Naruto and Sasuke discussed in the Hokage office. 2 new Otsutsuki are introduced, the same clan as Kaguya, that Sasuke had to fight in Kaguya's dimension, who apparently even Kaguya herself was warning of. Otsutsuki, from what we know, are almost raw representations of power and disparity. Kaguya was a raw representation of duality and chakra in Naruto that Madara preached against and wanted a way to defeat. Not literally Kaguya, but the dualities that spawned from chakra, power that she represented, etc. So, for 2 new Otsutsuki, who Kaguya in the original anime said only cared about power to arrive, was kind of interesting, and I didn't really expect anything deep from them. If anything, I expected 2 people even more ruthless and out of their gourd than Kaguya was. Kaguya, being someone who at least spared humanity after her infinite Tsukuyomi, was clearly a little different, and she clearly loved others to some degree. We are to expect that the other Otsutsuki don't even have these bare-bone qualities, and just as Madara said, that with power comes the desire to use it. Power almost in itself breeds conflict, and this is that philosophy in its most literal form. So these Otsutsuki come to Earth seeking conflict due to Naruto's power and chakra. Not even out of revenge for Kaguya or something, but literally just due to Naruto's power and chakra. I think that was pretty fitting, and I actually liked it a lot. By the way, a lot of Madara's quotes and lessons actually apply to Boruto and its characters, which people don't notice a lot. But not only do they stay in line with Madara's warning, but they have something that goes even further, which for what was supposed to be brutish, brain-dead Dragon Ball aliens coming to box is pretty interesting, and we'll get into that in a bit. We'll also get into aliens and Boruto a little bit later. Boruto ends up cheating in the Chunin exams and thinks he can finally fist bump Naruto after winning some fights, in which Naruto says Boruto is not a ninja, which was foreshadowed. Beating people with ninja tools does not make you a ninja, and this was stated all the way back in chapter 1. You don't need to be a ninja to use them. Boruto needed to learn what it meant to be a ninja. To Boruto's credit here, he does say something very true in which he calls out Naruto on his hypocrisy. If Naruto had passed these lessons he had also touted to Boruto, lectured him earlier, and even taught him what it meant to keep the peace or any of these things, Boruto would have never cheated, and he would have also been a lot stronger. This is actually 100% true, as when Boruto finally does learn his lessons from this arc, he absolutely despises and resents ninja tools and what they represent, seeing them as a spit in the face for shinobi, and he values learning techniques on his own. But he still hasn't developed there yet. Momoshiki then arrives, this embodiment of power I talked about earlier, and he embodies this so much that he doesn't even acknowledge Boruto exists because he only sees Naruto when he arrives, similar to how Kaguya strolled by and didn't even glance at Sakura or Kakashi in her introduction. It was almost as if Boruto was a wild animal Momoshiki walked by in the woods. He had no value for anything except power and conflict, which Naruto had plenty of, and Boruto had none of. Funny enough though, Boruto tries to use ninja tools to attack Momoshiki, which makes Momoshiki finally acknowledge his conflict, and he uses Boruto's tool to empower his own attack that would eventually bring down and capture Boruto's own father. In Naruto's sacrifice, Boruto is reminded of Sasuke's words from before, that he needs to remember who Naruto was before, not who he is now, and this is a message for Boruto fans, which I'll go into later. Naruto is captured and being drained of his power in another dimension, and now everyone has to save him. Sasuke still has faith in Boruto and believes in his redemption as a shinobi, just as Sasuke once was redeemed, and thus takes Boruto along with the 5 Kage to take down Momoshiki and Kinshiki. During the fight, we see the embodiment of guts and hard work fight against its polar opposite, one that cheats for results and power. The Otsutsuki clan was essentially a clan of power-hungry cheaters. They'd take pills for results and didn't even know what hard work meant. This was basically the two sides of Boruto fighting against each other in a godly physical clash. At the end, hard work pays off, but due to the intervention of another party, Momoshiki gets the upper hand and Boruto has to take down Momoshiki with his Rasengan, something he acquired with hard work. He then creates a giant Rasengan made by him and Naruto together, and while holding it he sees Naruto's emotions and struggle. He can feel the insane amount of guts and effort it took to create a Rasengan that powerful. And after acknowledging this, Boruto wields this hard work in his hands and literally vaporizes the concept of cheating, etc. away. Naruto acknowledges Boruto and he is allowed to be a ninja again. He was redeemed. For those that don't really get it yet, Boruto and Naruto's lessons is almost like the fan bases themselves when they see the series. Naruto fans are disinterested in Boruto and care more about Naruto being Hokage, while Boruto fans that started out with the series don't really understand why they should even care about Naruto's accomplishments or why everyone likes him so much. While Naruto, or the Naruto fanbase, eventually learned that Boruto was in fact like Naruto and Sasuke and was worthy of being a ninja, and Boruto, the Boruto fanbase, could see into how great Naruto really was and saw him for what he was in the past. I don't know if that was intentionally crafted by Kishimoto when he originally helped write the Boruto movie, or if it was just amplified more in the manga version, but all of that in just 10 chapters, I don't see the issue, and I honestly think that if you can't like that, you just didn't really like the Naruto series. Maybe you like some more shallow aspects of it, maybe you just like the fighting or something, because that was very Naruto-like, that first 10 chapters, and there was nothing bad about it. But maybe that arc is good and the rest is bad. After all, this is just a rerun of the movie, with the rest of Boruto only being supervised by Kishimoto, sort of like Toriyama with Dragon Ball, with it being written by Kodachi instead. Maybe, but this seems disingenuous as well, as the energy from that first arc doesn't really stop there. Now that Boruto's accepted being a shinobi, we learn of Boruto's goal to be a shinobi like Sasuke, a shinobi that supports the Hokage and is acknowledged from the shadows, and he has developed and done a 180 as a character since chapter 1 when it comes to his outlook as a ninja. The arc after that, he hates ninja tools and eventually has to learn to respect them for their uses again, and eventually has to come to terms with the tool theme that was in the Land of Waves of Naruto Part 1, where shinobi were seen as emotionless tools that Naruto wanted to disprove as a child. In a similar case, Boruto has to come to terms with tools and how they're used, which he learns that a tool is only as good or bad depending on how you use it. He comes to eventually face the ultimate example of this, which is Ao, or the Mizukage's old right-hand man, who is a shinobi who is turned into a living scientific ninja tool, in which, by employing ninja tactics, hard work, and an understanding of the goods of shinobi tools, defeats Ao. And in response, Ao tries to save Boruto with ninjutsu and shows his true nature as a ninja. Everything about the Ao fight is very nice, and even Boruto catching Ao off guard with shadow clones is actually foreshadowed, and is something he learned to do from Naruto, where Naruto learned how to be tricky with his shadow clones by being a prankster. Boruto learned it directly by fighting Naruto himself right before this, which is good. There isn't any Gary Stu energy or anything contrived happening at the moment. The only thing maybe contrived is Boruto at all putting up a fight against Ao. However, Ao is not using his shinobi attacks or tactics and is actively trying to avoid using them, while Boruto mainly just catches Ao by surprise rather than overpower him like Goku or something. He also defeats him with a Rasengan and a ninja tool, both of which amplifies his powers, no different than Naruto hurting Kabuto, a Kakashi-level opponent, with the Rasengan during the Sannin Showdown. So once again, I don't really see the issue here. If Boruto's a Gary Stu here, then Naruto is. The next arc is their introduction to Kawaki, who I will honestly say is not only one of the best characters in Boruto, but possibly one of the best in all of the Naruto franchise itself, and I'm not even exaggerating, he genuinely is pretty good. I would honestly say that if you haven't given Boruto a chance, just to do it for almost Kawaki alone, which I'll explain very soon. From the get-go, Kawaki is established as very powerful, but this isn't a Gary Stu or New Generation Yucky moment. Kawaki has earned his power, I dare say, just as much, or I dare even say more, than Naruto and Sasuke did in Part 1. As crazy as that sounds, once again, I'm not joking. Kawaki's whole body is reconstructed and is almost all a ninja tool. Kawaki is a kid who was taken from his abusive home into the hands of an Otsutsuki named Ishiki, taking the body of a human named Jigen. Once Kawaki was sold to Ishiki from his father, Ishiki manipulated his whole body by turning him into a literal tool, beat him with training every day, and gave him an Otsutsuki karma mark that could allow Kawaki to utilize Otsutsuki-like abilities such as absorption or etc. This karma mark, however, marks him a target of the Otsutsuki and Kara, and as a vessel of them as well. So not only did Kawaki have the loneliness of Naruto and Sasuke, which empowered them before, but he does train extremely hard and has possibly the strongest mentor in the whole series. Although it's not very constructive mentoring, he is being trained very gruelingly. Immediately, if you knew anything about Naruto, you know that Kawaki has also started to parallel him, as Naruto is a Jinchuriki that marked him a target of the Akatsuki and a vessel for Kurama. Funny enough, and once again, don't know if this is intentional, karma kind of sounds like Kurama. Kurama. Anyway, using this karma, Kawaki is able to defeat one of the Kara goons sent to find him and impresses everyone around him. Naruto eventually meets Kawaki, and as I said earlier, he identifies with Kawaki immediately and wants to take care of him. Naruto is even willing to put the safety of the village aside to protect Kawaki, and even Gaara and Darui, who was Killer Bee's teammate, respect and understand Kawaki's struggle and don't want him to be confined like Jinchuriki used to be in Naruto Part 1 and 2. However, Konoha is suspicious of Kawaki, just like it used to be of Naruto when he was a kid, which makes Kawaki feel alienated. Upon his first visit to Naruto's home, he ends up breaking Himawari's vase, which actually becomes a representation of his character throughout the ensuing arc. Kawaki wants to simply steal Himawari a new vase, but Naruto tells him he should just buy one instead. Boruto says he hates that Kawaki thinks he can just replace the vase, and it's a sign of his bad character. It's also interesting because he's mocking Naruto as well. Kawaki then begins to try and fix the vase piece by piece, which is symbolic for him fixing his life piece by piece. Another detail is that Kawaki is rather disrespectful to Naruto until he sees his power. Then, after seeing his power and calming down, he hears Naruto's story and pretty much falls in love with him. We then see how Kawaki obtained karma and many of his PTSD flashbacks and stories, in which Jigen would literally place children in bags and kill them with injections and by seizures until they could survive his karma mark for him to establish a vessel. Establishing him as a brutal Otsutsuki, and honestly one of the most brutal brutal characters we've ever seen on screen in the whole franchise that didn't really care at all for anything but himself. However, Jigen, also known as Ishiki, is different than any of the other Otsutsuki until now. He actively works with humans to achieve his goals and even respects them somewhat. He also, despite being insanely powerful, doesn't desire unnecessary conflict like Momoshiki. He is almost godlike in the way he functions. Even in a scene where Delta, a cyborg made by a genius named Amato, spills his dinner everywhere and flips everything over in a freakout, Jigen just returns it back to normal and doesn't get angry or emotional, while Delta freaks out about everything, showing he really is almost indifferent to everything around him. But at the end of the day, Ishiki is still an Otsutsuki and follows their will, and he is also extremely powerful and eventually will have to use it. Many people then go off on Kawaki for saying he has a foul temper, which is justified. He wasn't raised properly, he was just beaten, abused, manipulated, talked down on by everyone in his life, but you can see a soft side to him. People haven't shown him respect, so he doesn't really know how to show it to others. Even those stronger than him, like the Kara Inners, he doesn't show respect for, and he often berated them and even insulted Ishiki. This isn't a bad trait, just like Boruto being bratty at the beginning of the story. Kawaki is completely justified, and it makes sense he acts this way. It's something for him to work on and develop past. Kawaki begins to work on his manners and how to live a normal life as he slowly rebuilds his vase, and during this rebuilding period, he teaches Boruto how to use karma better, and they slowly become friends. They eventually even agree to destroy each other's karma, and Boruto even eventually calls Kawaki his brother. Those anger problems with Delta foreshadow her eventually rampaging into the village, and she has to fight Naruto, who's willing to protect Kawaki with his life, something not many, if any others, have ever showed him. A lot of people have problems with Delta due to her power level, but I'll get into that later when I talk about power scaling. For now, Naruto risks his life defending Kawaki, and at the end of it all, Kawaki risks his life for Naruto in return, and Delta is eventually defeated. After her defeat, Kawaki can't seem to find the final piece of the vase he was remaking. He couldn't find the last piece of himself to put together or what it was. He often argues against people saying a friendship or family can mean anything, having such a bad time with it growing up, in which even Naruto himself saying it is enough, and Kurama, the fox demon, actually comes out to give Kawaki a lecture on Naruto's life and how much he understands him, and saying that Naruto's lectures on friendship and family are true. This brings up a dilemma Kawaki has with himself. Is he a tool for Jigen, who promised to fill the empty void in Kawaki's heart, or is he something else? Without Jigen, was he really whole? And if not, what could fill that hole in his heart instead? Kawaki was a tool literally fashioned from top to bottom to be Ishiki's vessel. He almost wasn't even human anymore and was never treated like one. Could he just go back to being a normal person after what he's been through? And was it even fair to expect that? Jigen eventually faces off against Naruto not once but twice, and by Naruto sacrificing his powers alongside Sasuke, Borton, Kawaki, and his newly acquired ninjutsu obtained from working, they defeat Ishiki for good. Momoshiki also appears and rips out Sasuke's Rinnegan. Anyway, Kawaki comes home and the vase is finally fixed. The place in his heart was filled by family and love. It's a pretty cute ending for such a tragic story, but the story continues. This is basically just a basic summary of the story so far, and as I said, I do think Kawaki and even Boruto are going to be very deserving characters. Now, the next arc isn't over yet, so we can get on to the next part of this video. What I expect from the future of Boruto and Kawaki, and more reasons I love where they're going. My first assumption about them is that Boruto is going to be going down the route of Sasuke, and Kawaki is going down the route of Naruto. But this has a lot of attachments to it. For one, we know that Kawaki will probably become an antagonist, or at least it's implied, meaning we are getting the good guy Sasuke and bad guy Naruto route that Naruto told Sasuke was a possible outcome of their friendship during the 5 Kage Summit. Not only this, but Boruto's goal as Sasuke, quote-unquote, might imply that for him to become like Sasuke or the Shadow Kage, he'll have to understand what that means. What it means to protect the village from the shadows. If you've read any Itachi novels or remember any Danzo dialogue, you know that Boruto's in for a rude awakening going down this route. For him to be like Sasuke, or maybe even an extension of Itachi, Boruto might have to lose everything, just as Sasuke once did, to really understand him. Which is pretty much exactly what's going to happen. I think this is a beautiful direction. Now with Kawaki, him becoming an antagonist is fine, as I outlined with Naruto implying he could have easily been the bad guy, but there's many reasons why Kawaki could turn into an antagonist. For one, we don't know exactly why, but we know that Kawaki is obsessed with karma. More literally, he is obsessed with power. Otsutsuki representations of power have dominated his life, whether it was the power of his father beating him, Ishiki controlling him, or the power of Naruto protecting him. Power is a huge role in Kawaki's life, and even Naruto, Kawaki's older, almost parallel, states that power is all that can defeat the Otsutsuki, not love. Karma is also what brought Kawaki all of his new connections that he loves so much. Karma is what made Jigen interested in him. It's what helped him make friends with Boruto. It's what helped him find Naruto, and now that thing is gone and he feels off. It's no surprise that he's going off to looking for a possible way to regain a safer version of it, and is constantly dreaming about it. Karma and power is a part of him now. It's how he was raised, and it's something he'll have to overcome. And as I said earlier, power in Naruto invites and breeds conflict. It is almost like a part of its being. Kawaki is destined for conflict, and I think it's perfect. After all, as Madara would say, hatred is born trying to protect love. I also think there will be a good future for Naruto in putting his Hokage duties above his son. It seems to be something very foreshadowed now, and I asked people to go back and see if Boruto was ever allowed to call Naruto dad in the Hokage office after the Momoshiki fight in the manga, and nobody seems to say he does, except in the anime, which is different continuity. Naruto also says that if Boruto becomes an Ishiki level threat, he'll deal with him like a Hokage, which is very similar to something that Naruto's previous incarnation Hashirama said to Madara back in their fight to the death. So I think this will be a good direction as well. What I want from the future and some problems I have with the series right now that can be fixed. Now I think Boruto is actually pretty well done so far. Like I said, I think Kawaki is one of the best characters in the franchise, but there's still some holes in the series that still need to be filled for me. For one, Sarita, Mitsuki, and Konohamaru deserve more. While I think Sarita is coming along nicely and her fight against Boro is very well done, she needs more development. Unlike the anime, which just rehashed Naruto the 7th Hokage and the Scarlet Spring for developing Sarita, and the numerous canon fillerish episodes to flesh out characters, none of these apply to the manga, which is a different continuity. While Scarlet Spring is canon to the Boruto manga, the manga itself does not show it again like the anime. The manga has pretty much done nothing with her. We learned a few things about her basic desires, and that's about it. The manga doesn't even explain how she completed her Sharingan. We're just supposed to expect she did now by training as a side note, or assume she did in the novels. I hate this, and it makes Sarita feel like nothing but a side character that doesn't deserve any screen time. Likewise with Mitsuki, him having a backstory chapter in Naruto Gaiden, the road illuminated by the full moon, means jack all for the Boruto manga. In the Boruto manga, it's even worse because him being revealed as Orochimaru's son is supposed to be a revelation in it. While I liked his fight versus Boro, in the manga, he needs more. He has Sage Mode, all of these perfect genes, though, and potential. Use some of it, please. Anything. I think Mitsuki has a lot of potential, and while I think his sarcastic and guiding quotes to Boruto are funny, he can have something too. The anime does him a lot better, but the anime isn't for everyone, which I'll get into. Konohamaru deserves more too. He basically comes in and gets knocked out all the time. The best thing we see is Koji acknowledging he's strong before getting knocked out protecting Boruto again, or getting dealt with off-screen. Konohamaru busted up a pain when he was younger than Boruto. Have him show something. He wanted to be the next Hokage and had so much potential. Show it. My next problem is absorption every fight. Even Boruto fans agreed with me when I said this at first when I was almost completely ignorant of the series. Absorption needs to go. In fact, it should have went way earlier. The absorption was balanced in the original Naruto franchise or series, especially when it was first introduced in the pain arc, because only one path of pain could absorb chakra. Then, with Madara, it got a little absurd. The point was that Madara was ridiculously overpowered and nothing could ever stop him. How would you ever, feasibly do it? But it didn't really make things exciting. But even then, he still got hit by jutsu. He still got caught off guard and still got hit by lots of things. Naruto almost chopped him in half with the Rasen Shuriken, etc., etc. But in Boruto, once again, they're using the absorption trait. But absorption is so bad because you have an entire series. You have part of Naruto, part 1 and 2, 700 chapters of them establishing their new jutsu, their new techniques, their new powers, just for it to be completely nullified and for them to fight like Dragon Ball characters. If I wanted to watch Dragon Ball, I would watch Dragon Ball. I'm here to watch ninja use ninjutsu And every cool villain I watch does not feel powerful or cooler because they can negate jutsu by absorbing it. It's not like they're overpowering it, they're just absorbing it. They're just basically skidding around the idea. It's not cool. I've never liked it. And literally every character Naruto fights has to use it. And I noticed that Boruto's maybe taking some notes from Dragon Ball a little bit. Maybe some people have noticed. But even Dragon Ball dropped the absorption thing almost instantly. Imagine if Perfect Cell came down and could still absorb attacks. He would be way more lame. It wouldn't be cool at all. So please take it out. It is not cool, and it's so weird to take out such an interesting side of your series. It's actually counterintuitive, and I'm pretty sure that's what Toriyama realized immediately writing the Android arc. My next problem with the series is the art. Yes, the art is not that good. It gets somewhat better over time, and you can tell when given some time, Ikimoto can draw some cool stuff, but otherwise, he really shows his stuff as mainly a background artist. In the original Naruto, you can actually point out a lot of background art, not by Kishimoto, and his art looks almost identical to it even back then. But it looks like the whole manga is his background art. I can tell for sure why this isn't fun to read for many people, and at least with Dragon Ball Super, which is somewhat like a Boruto counterpart for Dragon Ball, the art genuinely can get really good sometimes in the manga, but with Boruto, even at its best, it really almost appears average. It's definitely a bad, and I will not defend it. And not only is it bad, but now you have series like Bleach returning and getting their own Boruto era, or Bleach Z, and it's drawn by the original guy, almost better than ever. So Boruto really is not eating in that department. My next problem is Sarita's betrayal. How Sarita is betrayed and designed in the manga is disgusting, and even Kishimoto doesn't like it. Please just stick to Kishimoto's design of her and stop this weird, high-heel, glasses-sucking shit. My next issue, where is Kakashi? Is he dead? What kind of crazy vacation is he on? He didn't even check up on the gang when Ishiki basically murder-stomped Naruto and Naruto lost Kurama. Where is this dude in the manga? He's in the anime, but surely a smart guy like Kakashi should be resourceful. I can only assume that they want to keep the other Hokage out of the picture to emphasize what Hokage means to Boruto and Kawaki more, which if so, that's fine, but it's kind of contrived to just assume that they never get involved really after all these crazy things, not realistic or believable at all. The anime makes a lot more sense. This is kind of a non-criticism, but why doesn't Naruto wear his headband? Like I said, this is weird, and I don't think it's that serious, but Naruto not wearing a headband after the huge significance it had in the original Naruto series is a bit jarring with Iruka and how he demanded Sasuke wear his to respect him being an equal. Normally you just say he's Hokage so he doesn't wear it, but Naruto and Tsunade are the only Hokage who don't wear their headband. And even with Tsunade, she could have just thrown hers away before she became Hokage. So I don't understand why Naruto doesn't wear it. Even Kakashi wore his, and it's a part of Naruto's monument design. Hell, it seems like Sasuke cares about it more than Naruto now. So here's some things I think are misconceptions. Do I feel like Naruto and Sasuke are nerfed or getting disrespected? Yes and no. Well, at first I can see how you could think this. Reading more into it, it's not that bad. Remember, this is a continuation of Naruto Part 2, which, as I hinted earlier, is a benefit to Boruto fans. We kind of already know what Naruto and Sasuke can do, and we don't need them showing it all the time. Naruto showing Boruto what he can do against Momoshiki was really enough. Him doing it against Delta and Ishiki is even just more overkill. The whole nerf thing is by the way they feel when fighting. However, not only is Momoshiki one of Kaguya's clan members she was specifically scared of, Naruto and Sasuke beat him while not even at full power, as both were fatigued when facing him. In the manga, Naruto and Sasuke pretty much beat him down until he unleashes a weird jutsu on Sasuke, and then they fuse and essentially one-shot him. Nothing to imply Naruto and Sasuke are nerfed whatsoever here. In the next fight with Delta, Naruto somewhat struggles with her while going all out, and it's implied he's a lot stronger than her, and she can only get the upper hand on Naruto threatening Himiwari, not with power. Even then, Delta is a cyborg made by Amato, who is a part of an Otsutsuki power group. Amato has constructed cyborgs in the newest arc that are even stronger than Jigen in the past. It's no different than Dr. Gero creates cyborgs to take down Saiyans and Dragon Balls that can blow up planets. In that sense, once again, it's not a nerf. It's just some OP Dragon Ball-esque android girl, and Naruto still wins. Ishiki beating down Naruto and Sasuke. For one, Ishiki is directly stated to be Kaguya's superior. He can be as strong as he wants, narratively. He's pretty much confirmed to be stronger than her, at least before she ate from the divine tree. But even then, Ishiki seems very confident in his ability and almost nothing of Kaguya, despite having a record of her after she ate from the divine tree. He could simply be stronger than her, which is why he took down Naruto and Sasuke so easily. Even Momoshiki, who thought very little of Kaguya, thought Naruto and Sasuke could never beat Ishiki, despite them beating him with fusion. Even in the Otsutsuki dimension that holds their 10 tails, Ishiki is placed above all of the Otsutsuki. He's just a notoriously very overpowered Otsutsuki. Once again, nothing to scream nerf over. And also, Naruto sacrificing his powers to defeat someone, it wouldn't make sense if it was someone that was a jobber. Naruto sacrificing his powers to face the strongest guy they've ever seen makes a lot more sense. I will admit, though, that it does look like Sasuke gets the short end of the stick in a lot of these fights. But it does make sense, especially in the Ishiki fight. Naruto does a much better time fighting opponents stronger than himself than Sasuke due to his regeneration abilities. He can take a hard hit and regenerate. Sasuke just can't really do that. So while I don't like it, it makes sense. Although Sasuke getting caught by Momoshiki's Dragon Jutsu was kind of overkill. Should have just had Sasuke chop away the technique with his Susanoo rather than Naruto help him. However, I do have some gripes with the Betrayal of power with the story, and I'd wish they would show more effects of their godlike clashes. I don't like how Three Tails Naruto fighting Orochimaru destroys forests and launches high-level shinobi away just from their presence, then Naruto with his god amps and full Nine Tails fights an Otsutsuki-level cyborg and creates only a fart cloud from their clashes. If you want to point out examples of Naruto Shippuden doing this as well after the Orochimaru fight, go ahead, and I'll simply say I don't like it either. I'm not asking for planet-busting explosions every fight, but Naruto only fights really 3 times. Have his fights look more intense than the others. Show a clear difference in the scale. Anything. There's so many ways to go about it. And since there are characters even stronger than them appearing in the future, please find a way to make their fights scale higher as well, and intense. If 2 really overpowered characters fight, show it. Period. For Naruto fighting Delta, I can at least attest that Naruto wanted to at least be on the smallest scale as possible because he wanted to protect the children in the background, but with the Ishiki and Momoshiki fights, I really see very little excuse. For instance, when Momoshiki first attacks, Naruto's not allowed to attack it back due to the scale of the explosion that will detonate in the village. Then, when we see Naruto and Sasuke fight Momoshiki in an alternate dimension where they can go really all out, except maybe use ninjutsu that Momoshiki can't absorb, there's almost nothing in terms of scale. Naruto versus Orochimaru did it better. Once again. Versus Ishiki, they go all out in an alternate dimension, again, but once again, no scale. And they can even somewhat use jutsu here. Disappointing. They're using the Nine Tails cloak, the Nine Tails in Legend leveling mountains just by swinging his tails on accident, and Sasuke using the Susanoo who Madara cut mountains away with on accident, yet once again here they are doing almost nothing while having these fights and god amped. It just looks and feels unimpressive. It just feels like they are fighting now. I will admit that even Toriyama struggled with increasing scale in his series, but there's many ways to go about it. And you could say Naruto and Sasuke are just good at, hiding their scale or whatever, but in situations where they're in alternate dimensions and it doesn't matter, just feels a little unrealistic and disappointing, especially for Naruto's final battle. I'll even say this, Boruto's fights throughout the whole series are almost all better than Naruto's fights. His fight versus Ao, his fight versus Boro, etc. Naruto looks like bad Dragon Ball fights, which is due to another writing issue, absorption. The grit of Naruto versus the grit of Boruto. I feel as though many people are turned off by Boruto due to the anime. The anime makes Boruto to be a very colorful and childish slice of life adventure that is very different than the original Naruto. Now this is actually a good thing, and good writing, in all honesty, as Boruto is enjoying the peace that Naruto created and doesn't have to be a child soldier. However, the manga is not at all childish or colorful like the anime. Actually, not at all. It gets pretty dark before chapter 20, and just continuously gets darker and more like OG Naruto. Like I said before, give the series a chance, especially for Kawaki, and you'll see the same flavor Naruto used to have. Well, except for the art. I mean, literally. Ishiki is shown putting children in bags and just having them explode. Like, it's not that childish. The final thing is aliens in Boruto. People have a problem with aliens in Boruto. It's a show about ninja. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I really don't. Like, Naruto's power is derived from a mountain-sized fox demon that can shoot Dragon Ball, like, ki attacks. I don't want to hear it. There's nothing, like, ninja-y about it. It's honestly, it's more like a wizard show where they act like ninja. Like, if I'm gonna be honest. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any critiques on Boruto or you have anything good to say, let me know. I had to briefly go over it. Look how long this video is. I only briefly went over things. Obviously, there's a lot more to say about the series. A lot more, things to critique or say are good, but just too long of a video. Also, download Raid Shadow Legends now. Goodbye.